Welcome everyone, welcome our dear guests, and last but not least, the participants of the event from Poland and Hungary. Today's afternoon topic is going to be the nuclear energy in the region. Just a few words in advance. Nuclear energy was used between 13 members of the European Union in 2021. In 2022, the Polish government joined this direction when they signed the contract with American Westinghouse electricity company about building a new nuclear power plant. Meanwhile, in Hungary, there are an ongoing investment with Paks 2 project, which is ensure competitiveness for Hungary in the next decades. Today's guest from Poland is Adam Juszczak from the Polish Economic Institute. Welcome, Adam.
Good afternoon.
And Dr. Attila Hugyes, Chief Economic Advisor of Paks 2. Welcome, Attila.
Hi, welcome everyone.
For first, we are going to find out the consideration behind the choice of nuclear energy of the countries. Let's start with Poland. Adam. Why did Poland decide a nuclear power plant? Is it a consequence of the Green Deal, where Poland has to accomplish certain conditions of the program, or nuclear energy is a kind of future strategy for Poland? What do you think?
I think it's both. Actually, we cannot say that it's not the necessity that comes from the Green Deal and the net zero strategy for 2050. In Poland, we have around 70% of electricity production from coal, at around additional 10% from gas. So we use a lot of fossil fuels, and we wouldn't be able to achieve the net zero target without nuclear energy. Actually, we are of course building a lot of renewables as well. We built a lot of solar power. We have around 12 gigawatts of solar power at the moment, so it's a big growth. It's tremendous growth last 3 years, and we plan also to build big farms of offshore and a lot of onshore wind turbines. But nuclear power is a big element of Poland's strategy for neutrality of electricity production, especially if you consider that the electricity demand will only grow, not only because, well, natural demand will grow as projections from the past, but we should also consider that if we want to decarbonize also the heating sector, transportation sector, industry sector, we would need a lot more electric energy than before. For example, the industry sector in Poland consumes around third of electricity demand, yearly electricity demand. And only if you consider only some companies that would need to decarbonize their production, their electricity demand, direct or indirect, for example, with hydrogen, with green hydrogen, will only grow, and we need a stable base, power plants like nuclear to be able to withdraw from production of electricity from coal.
Mhm. Thank you. Why Poland hasn't done this decision earlier?
I think there are a lot of factors. First of all, you should consider that we had a try with nuclear energy, with building nuclear power plant historically with Żarnowiec in the 80s, and it did not went well, and the project was cancelled in the 1990s. After that, the debate about the climate neutrality was not a big deal in the 90s and early 2000s. So there was a necessity, and Poland has a lot of coal that we didn't need to import coal, especially for electricity. We were able to get it from our own mining and extraction. So we didn't have a necessity, but after 2010, I think somewhere in this somewhere around that, we actually realized that coal is not the future, and we need to invest in other sources of energy. In 2010, in 2005, actually, the nuclear power plant was brought back in the first strategy. However, it was still a project that was mostly on the paper, and only a few years back we started to fasten up the process and actually do something in this to build the nuclear power plant. And as you can see now, from the original project that we wanted to build only 2 power plants in the Polish strategy. Right now, we also have the third power plant that will be built probably by Koreans, which will be built with also with the private investor ZE PAK. And we have a lot of small modular reactors that are will come, and there are a lot of companies that want to invest in small modular reactors also in Poland. So we can see that nuclear fever in Poland is only growing.
Thank you. Let's float a little to Hungary. Hungary, we already have like PAKS 1. Could you tell me a little bit about the importance of PAKS 2 in the perspective of Hungary? Is it a big step for energy sovereignty of the country?
Of course, the PAKS 1 is a major source of decarbonized electricity in Hungary. You can imagine that roughly 45% of the domestically generated electricity in the country is produced by the single nuclear power plant in PAKS. So it's basically almost half of the domestically generated electricity. This is the source. And as the import share of the country is pretty high, this means that 1/3 of the consumption is satisfied by the nuclear power plant. This is only one point. So this means that PAKS for us, the nuclear power plant for us is the main pillar of domestic electricity. Another important piece of information is that if you have a look at how much electricity we use today, it is 48 terawatt hours annually, but this is going to increase by 2030 to 68. So from 48 to 68 within 7 years. And the reason for this growth is that we have 100 plus foreign direct investment in the country annually. And there are now 4 electric vehicle battery manufacturing plants being built. And the biggest one is so big that it is going to consume 10% of the country's electricity. So these are really huge investments, and battery manufacturing is really electricity and water intensive. So for this, we will need additional 20 terawatt hours of electricity, which is basically the total annual generation of PAKS 2, the 2 new units. So this is really crucial for us. In Europe, Hungary is the most import-based country, I mean, in terms of electricity. So the government thinks that the import cannot be higher than now. That's why we should build something which is future-proof. And decarbonization is a huge task also for us. And we haven't discussed with Adam the what we will say, but I can agree that if you want to decarbonize the heating sector, I mean the heating of houses, the transport sector, and the industry, you will need a lot of electricity in the future, and we have to find decarbonized solutions for it, and it's not that easy. There are wind power plants, solar power plants, also in Hungary, a lot of solar. We have solar which is whose capacity is double that of the Paks 1. It means 4,500 megawatts in Hungary. Paks, the solar nuclear power plant, is 2,000 megawatts. So this is the way we would like to decarbonize the country. This is a long-term project, of course, decarbonization. And what you have to see that the electrification in the heating sector and also in the mobility sector, I mean in the transport sector, has started also in Hungary, and this is a slowly continuing trend in the country.
According to Csaba Lantos, the Hungarian Minister of Energy, the lifetime of Paks 1 will be extended with 20 years. What does it mean to the Hungarian energy market? Does it really haven't got any energy security risks?
Mr. Lantos said that it's going to be extended. I mean, the lifetime is going to be expanded, but let me clarify that first you have to start with a lot of technical investigations in the nuclear power plant. This is going to take 6 to 8, 9 years. So this is not a decision of the parliament. This is a decision of the power plant itself. It has to investigate all the devices and pumps and pipes on how long the lifetime can be, how long can it be extended, what parts, what structures, what components have to be replaced in the next years. And based on all these investigations, will be given the opportunity to extend the lifetime of the power plant. However, what I said now is only a technical question. The second question will be an economical question, whether it makes money to invest so much money into the investigation and into the replacement of these parts. And third, it's going to be a legal question also, because according to the Hungarian law, there is no possibility for the power plant to have two lifetime extensions. So we will have to modify law, and if the law is modified, then if the technical conditions are given and if the economics is given, then we will have a 10 or 15 or 20 years plus lifetime extension. And what I have to add is that according to the Hungarian nuclear regulation, every 10 years there has to be a so-called periodic safety review in the power plant. So even if the power plant's lifetime will be extended by 20 years, every 10 years, it has to be investigated once again whether it is really safe. So, and as I said before, or I didn't say, but as I said before, the Paks 2's electricity will be consumed by the new industrial needs, and therefore, to avoid the increase of electricity import growth, we will have to build also Paks 2 and also keep Paks 1 online. So from a safety point of view, first we will check, we will negotiate it, we will check it. As it was the case 15 years ago, when we started with the first lifetime extension, it took 8 to 9 years. There were a lot of investigations, many parts were replaced, and so this is how a lifetime extension project is set up.
Thank you for clarifying that. Adam, you mentioned that the majority of electricity is made by coal power plants in Poland. What do you think after the nuclear power plants start to function and work? Can Poland stop permanently the coal mining, or will it be a part of the energy mix forever?
For sure, it won't be a part of our energy mix forever. Actually, in Poland, we have a plan to withdraw from usage of coal. First of all, first will be lignite because it emits more CO2 per gigawatt per kilowatt produced and kilowatt hour produced, and then we will also go back from coal as well. Um, I think that if we will build three big nuclear power plants, so around 10 to 11 gigawatts of power, we will be able to produce 25 to 35% of our electricity from these sources alone. If we add the small modular reactors, depends on how they will grow on the market when they will arrive. It will be, of course, possible to even increase this number. I will just give you one example. We know that one of the biggest Polish company, KGNM, wants to invest in their small modular reactors. And KGNM is its demand for electricity is around 3 terawatt hours per year, so more than 2% of Polish energy production. If only this company and this company plans to will build SMRs for their own needs and not withdraw the electricity from the grid. It will be a great saving. So it is possible, of course, for Poland to drop production of energy from coal. I think it's, of course, possible up to 2050, but the exact dates we'll have to see because there are a lot of factors that we cannot foresee. As, for example, we couldn't foresee the war in Ukraine, and before that, as you could see in not only Polish but many national strategies in Europe were aiming at using natural gas for production of electricity as a for some time because the gas emits twice less CO2 than production of electricity from coal. As we know now, many of these projects were dumped because we cannot use the gas from Russia anymore. This is quite impossible to be sure for 100%. But as we look at the strategy, for example, Polish energy strategy for 2040, we can see that the coal will play lesser part even after 2030 and a little part after 2040, and after that we'll probably stop using it at all.
Thank you. As we mentioned before, the Polish nuclear power plant will be made by American technology. What is the consideration behind the choice of the Polish government? Is the American technology the best one in the market, or what else? Because there was like a French opportunity and a South Korean opportunity in the first site. What do you think about that?
I think if we consider technology, all three American technology with the Westinghouse, Korean technology with IPR 1400, and French technology with EPR reactors, are all very good reactors. They are all generation 3+ reactors, and they are safe. And the differences between them, of course, there are some differences, but I don't think that was the main factor of the choice. If we consider the choice of the first nuclear power plant in Poland, I think we should look at two reasons. First, economic, and what the Americans promised, and the second that is geopolitical. So, first of all, U.S. is the biggest ally of Poland, especially right now. In face of the war, so we want to be close with Americans as well, and I know that we know that for Polish government it was important that the provider of the technology will also be a co-investor in the power plant. This is the first thing, and second thing is to provide the opportunity of increasing local content. So big percent of the build will be performed by local companies. That was the two very important factors standing, in my opinion, behind the choice. But it's not that we picked only the Americans. As we can see, the second project already started with the Koreans, and we are also making you probably will be also making the nuclear power plant with the Korean technology, and the choice of the technology for the third nuclear power plant is still open for debate. So it's not that French do not have any chance, because they do, and it's not impossible that we will actually have a nuclear power plant in everyone in the different technology and with different supplier. But of course, there is one factor that we should also remember, and that is that the French technology had some issues in Poland, in Europe, with the realization time. For example, Olkiluoto or Flamanville, and probably that is also one of the reasons. Of course, now the French, probably when we're looking at the building of Hinkley Point C, probably they learned their lesson, and they have the most experience with European law regarding building the nuclears, but still, probably that was also one of the factors.
Thank you, Adam, for these necessary informations. As we talk about the French technology, could you give us, Attila, a short update on the status of PACS-2 project and explain the French involvement in it, especially regarding the instrumentation and control system?
Yeah, as you know, the Hungarian project is a Russian project. We are building two VVER 1200 units. This is a generation 3 plus unit. There are already 6 in operation in the world. However, there are certain major components that are from Western Europe, like the INC, the instrumentation and control system of the power plant, which will be delivered by the French and by the Germans. However, now we have difficulties with the delivery of the German part. So the French are going to supply the biggest part of the instrumentation and control system. However, the turbine and generator is also coming from France. This is a French turbine, the Arabelle turbine, which is a very good one. So basically, in this project, we are mixing Russian nuclear technology with Western European turbine island, so secondary circuit, we say, and Western European instrumentation and control system. So this is how the French industry is involved. We are very happy about the involvement of the French and the turbine and the instrumentation and control system. These are really good ones. So this is how they are involved.
Thank you so much. The European Union considers nuclear energy as a green energy resource. Are they trying to make countries to choose this kind of energy resource, or nuclear energy really isn't that harmful for the environment. What do you think?
Of course, it is not not that harmful for the environment, but I wouldn't say the European Union is or the European Commission is pro-nuclear. It's not at all. It's rather against nuclear, as I think. What you have to see that in Brussels, in the European Union, the Commission and the Parliament, many politicians are working, and politically, it's not that fancy to step up and say that yes, we would like to have nuclear on every corner of the city. So it's not that fancy, not that attractive, basically. So maybe this is one reason why it is not so. Why the European Commission is not so pro-nuclear. I wouldn't say it is. However, the countries seeing the natural gas situation recently, the decarbonization efforts and obligations, the energy security questions, the volatility and intermittency of solar PV and the wind, many countries think that they have something stable, which is not weather dependent, and which is at the same time low carbon. And this is nuclear. So this is why many countries, not only in the world, but also in Europe, are voting now for nuclear and turning to nuclear, as it is the case in Poland, of course. But there are other countries that are now being, in Europe, nuclear power plants, for example, as it was mentioned, the UK, France, Finland, the Slovakians are constructing one. They are now just in the last months of constructing one. And there are other countries turning to nuclear, like Poland. There are other intentions by Slovenia, by Romania, by Bulgaria, by Ukraine, by the Netherlands to build new nuclear plants. Italy is considering integrating nuclear into the mix. And there are globally, there are a lot of countries turning to nuclear, like the Philippines, Kazakhstan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Turkey. These are all turning to nuclear, but in Africa, Ghana, of course, and there are really many countries. But because if you consider the advantages of low carbon, stable, and low cost, I mean, on the long term, it is a low cost source of electricity, and it can help making small villages or small towns rich, as it was the case in Paksh, for example. So you can see a regional positive effects also. Many countries say that, yes, we would like to start with nuclear. It's not that easy to start with it, because first you have to create a nuclear regulation. You have to create studies, nuclear physics or nuclear studies in the country. You have to train a lot of people. You have to explain everyday people that it is safe. It can be operated safely. You need a lot of people for it. You need very highly qualified people for it. So if you add all the advantages, you will see that we need it. That was the case, as far as I remember, in Żarnowiec in Poland. The situation was that people were very happy about building this power plant because they saw the advantages locally, regionally, in the city or in the region. This is why they are so pro-nuclear now. And let me add one thing, that many big items and components were delivered to Żarnowiec at that time in the 80s. And Hungary bought one steam generator and several pumps, one main circulation pump, and also one of the reactor pressure vessels from Poland. And now it is now installed in Hungary next to the power plants. All these big items are installed. They are not in operation. This is not part of the power plant, but these items are part of the so-called maintenance and training center. And these are used for training the operational personnel for doing the maintenance works in an unirradiated environment. So they are doing their practice there on these items, and once they have these maintenance tasks in reality in the irradiated environment, they can do it more quickly as compared to if they hadn't got this choice. So I would like to say thank you for the Polish to selling us these items. These help us, the operational personnel of the nuclear power plant, to train, to learn how they have to do the job, and this will help them saving radiation during doing the job.
Thank you so much, Attila. Adam, what do you think that the usage of nuclear energy will increase in other European countries as well in the consequence of unstable Russian energy? What are your thoughts?
I will just answer this question, but I will just add for the what Attila said. That actually, yeah, of course, in Poland right now we have a lot of most of the Polish people are for nuclear energy. The recent study by Replanet showed that 84% of Polish people are for usage of nuclear technology in electricity production, and this is much higher result than, for example, in France, in the US, or in Sweden. So Polish people are really eager for the nuclear power plants, as well as local community, because most of the people realize that the local community in the area that nuclear power plant is built is automatically becoming one of the richest area in Poland. So that is one thing that should be said. Regarding your question, of course, it depends from many factors. But if we look at the forecasts, for example, the forecast from International Energy Agency, International Atomic Energy Agency, and so on, we can see that the more ambitious the target of lowering the emission, the biggest actually percentage of nuclear is in the mix. It is impossible, or at least very hard to achieve net zero up to 2050 without nuclear energy. And this is actually also the statement from, for example, UNICE in their latest report. I think that right at the moment, nuclear energy is around 10% of electricity production, and I think this proportion can stay at the same level or increase, even though, of course, the power itself will increase, and there are scenarios that nuclear percentage in the production will drop, but actually I think right now we can see more and more scenarios that it will increase. There are two things that we should consider regarding that. First of all, we can see the big increase in building of nuclear in China. They are actually building at the moment around 30 gigawatts of nuclear power plants. Second thing is that we can see the nuclear energy renaissance in Europe. It is during last 2 or 3 years, many countries that considered dropping the nuclear or not investing in it started to realize that they actually have to extend the life of their nuclear power plants, for example, Belgium, or to build new ones. And if we look at public opinion right now, I think there are only 2 countries that are, well, at least from the political point of view, there are only 2 countries in Europe that are against nuclear energy, and it's Austria and Germany. However, with Germany, the case is not so simple because, of course, we have politicians that are against nuclear, but over 50% of German society, as we can see in the of the research of public opinion, is for nuclear energy. And as well as if you can see even for the local governments, of course we have the local governments of Mecklenburgia, which is protesting the building of Polish power plant, but at the same time, once the Germans were shutting off the last few reactors, the local government of Bavaria was protesting against it, because they said that if they will turn off the ISA reactor, they will need to the companies in Bavaria will need to take the electricity from the gas, which is first of all produce emissions, and second of all CO2 emissions, and second of all is expensive.
Thank you, Adam. Attila, do you have something in addition?
I would like to stress that many people in Hungary don't know that Paks is among the 3 richest cities in the country. And this is the sole reason is basically the existence of the nuclear power plant. If you go to Paks and if you ask people, or in the county itself, if you ask people where they would like to work, everybody wants to work in the nuclear power plant, either in the Paks 1, which is now in operation, or in Paks 2, which is now being constructed. So it is such an attractive, these are such attractive workplaces, and people see in the cities that this is a way higher than the average city. It's a rich city, I have to add. Second, let me add to the local opinions and the opinion difference between the local opinions and the countrywide opinions. Once in 2015, we visited 40 villages around the in the vicinity of Paks, around Paks, basically 40 small villages, small and bigger ones also. And the main questions of the people around Paks were, how can I get a job there? How can I be involved? How can I become a supplier? How can I sell, I don't know, food, apples? How can I don't know, provide accommodation for workers? So how can they themselves have benefits? So this was a little bit interesting or surprising also for us, because people were not asking about radioactive waste and nuclear safety and accidents. This was not the question. So they are used to live next to a power plant. They know that it is safe. You can live there. You can go inside. You can have a look how it works. So people work there. 2,500 people work in Paks, and the cancer rates in Paks are lower, much lower than the average in the country. So it doesn't mean that if you work in a power plant, you will die of cancer. It's not the case. So people in Paks are healthier and they have less cancer than the average people in Hungary. So it's really a differing situation locally. Countrywide, we have questions of radioactive waste and accidents, of course, but locally the situation is totally different. Everybody wants to work in the power plant, and they would like to get a job somewhere in the power plant or related to the power plant itself.
Could be built a little ecosystem as well, as I hear. This is an additional question, but what do you think? What innovation could exchange the nuclear power in this region? I think about like innovation in the storages of renewable energies, or what do you think? What will be the main innovation that could change and could be a better solution than nuclear energy?
Well, basically, there are 2 ways to go. The one is having a certain part in the electricity mix, having nuclear plus renewables. This is one way to go. some gas or electricity storage. The second one, if you only go with the renewables, intermittent renewables, which is solar and wind, in this case, you will have a lot of grid development. You will spend huge amounts of money on developing the grid. You will need huge amounts of building electricity storage and devices, I would say, batteries. But the situation is that the electricity storage in an industrial scale is not really given now. It's becoming now there on the market in an industrial scale, but it's expensive. And now, if you, as an energy politician and as an energy policy maker, you not only have to calculate the power plant level generation of electricity, because this is not the biggest part of the story. So if you have an electricity invoice and if you have a look at it, you will see that roughly 1/3 of the electricity bills consists of electricity. This is 1/3. The second third is grid network. You have to build it, maintain it, renew it, operate it. This costs a lot of money. And you have also the taxes, VAT mostly. So, and if you install a lot of intermittent renewables, then you will have to balance the grid, for which you will need either electricity storage or a lot of grid development, which costs a lot of money. And as an energy policy maker, you have to find an optimum of this, of the whole cost of the electricity supply system as a whole, not only the power plant level cost, because solar PV might be cheap on a power generator level. However, you have, so you need either natural gas for balancing it, for cases when there is no sun, which will reduce in natural gas imports, which will result in CO2 emissions. Or you will have to build a lot of electricity storage, which is not the case in Europe. So this technology is not there yet. So what could save the world in terms of, in this term, could be electricity storage. However, for the next 30, 40 years, I think that rotating machines, we call them spinning machines, power plants, normal, classical, conventional power plants, will be necessary for the electricity system. But electricity storage, hydrogen is also a storage, basically. This could help. However, the electricity industry is a very capital-intensive one. For all these technologies to come there, we will require 1-2 decades at least, for which we don't have time, because in the last 10-15 years there were no market incentives on the European electricity market to build new power plants. And in the last decade, basically, we have seen that 2 sectors have been started to be electrified, and this is the heating sector and this is the mobility sector, which are huge energy consumers. And if we turn these 2 huge energy consuming sectors into electricity consuming sectors, this will basically double the electricity consumption of countries in Europe. So this is really a huge increase of electricity consumption to be expected, and somehow we have to solve it. And we can also speak about whether we can produce so much solar panels, so much wind turbines, because there are a lot of critical minerals which are not mined in Europe at all. There are 4, 5, 6 elements of the periodic table which are used in wind turbines and in solar panels, which are of whose 99% is produced in China. So basically, with going the renewables way, we exchange the gas import for the import of critical minerals. This is another dependency. This is a little bit different dependency, but still, the European Union in the last 2 years has started to see this situation, that the import of critical minerals that cannot be substituted by other elements of the periodic table, this is going to be a crucial question for the next 1 or 2 decades. So fortunately, this thinking has been started, and people have to understand the limitations and the constraints with going renewables only, which is not the case anywhere in the world. Countries using almost only renewables use hydro, basically. Like Norway is 99% based on hydro. Things have started. Public acceptance of wind turbine has started to diminish, because people see the noise effects of it. So there are pros and cons of each and every technology. So if there were no cons of one technology, we would only use this one. This is not the case, because all has their pros and cons. Hydro, biogas, nuclear, solar PV, wind, all have their pros and cons. Based on these pros and cons, we will have to find a good way to produce a lot of electricity, which is low carbon, and through which we can create a continuous electricity supply system. And if we have a chance, we should do it in a low-cost way. So this is not that easy.
Thank you. Adam, do you have something in addition?
Well, I mostly agree with what Attila said. Yes, of course, this is a serious case that we should look not only on the cost of the plant itself, but also for the cost for the whole grid. And this is the common critique of the levelized cost of electricity indicator, because it does not take most of the additional factors. For example, as you mentioned, the necessity of having the backup power for the renewables. That also costs. For example, in Poland, this is the additional cost on the energy bill, something we call the power market. So the gas and coal power mines that are used when we have to produce more powers from the stable source. And I agree that there is a problem in European Union with the critical minerals. For example, as you said, import from China. Also, 93% of magnesium in the European Union is imported from China. Over 60% of cobalt is imported from Congo, which is also quite an unstable country. So this is actually something we should consider, especially that according to European Commission reports, the demand for the critical minerals, critical resources connected with renewable sources of power and electrification of transport will increase tenfold. So this is something that will be a challenge for European Union policy. And I think that will be all from my side.
Thank you so much.
Let me add one thing to nuclear, if you allow me. Basically, Russia and China are leading technology providers. China was the first who built now a Generation 4 nuclear reactor. Russia has the first SMR online, which is on a ship, basically. So these are leading constructors, leading vendors of nuclear technology with a lot of construction experience. And as we see now, there is a lot of demand or request by countries wishing to build nuclear power plants. There are other vendors like the French, the Americans, the South Koreans, who in the last 2-3 decades have not built so many power plants. So they, some of them, especially the Americans, the French, partially also lack construction experience. We are really eager to see how they will perform in the next decade. They have to build back this construction capacity. The workers, the construction experience has to be gathered, and we are. This is why we are really closely monitoring the global nuclear market to see whether these companies can grow up to the question and to the challenge of building so many power plants in the next 1 or 2 decades.
Well, if I can add for this one, of course, these countries these countries had some problems with the new technology of nuclear and the lack of specialists as well. But I wouldn't agree that they did not build a lot of nuclear before. For example, Westinghouse built nuclear also in China, and Koreans built some power plants, but mostly in their own countries. In their own country, and lately they built Bacarash 1 to 4. So we can see that actually right now, I think we have some proofs that they are actually renewing their potential to build the nuclear power plants. Also, if you look at the SMR projects, of course, we can say that Kalte 140 reactors that are built on Academic Lomonosov in Russia is SMR, but actually the Russians had a lot of delays with this project as well, and it finished in 2020, and we cannot see another SMR produced by Russia from this time. And SMR as a something that is essential for the SMR is that they would be built in a series. So if you just build 1 or 2 projects, it doesn't make any sense. And actually, right now, what we should look closely is, first of all, of course, China, because they are building their SMR as well. But also, I think on the projects from Canada, US, or European projects, because we know that both, for example, France and UK are trying to build their own SMRs as well. So I think we should pay attention for European projects, especially if we consider that projects from Europe, from Korea, from Japan, or from Canada has to meet higher standards than project from, for example, Russia.
Let me add two remarks. The AP1000 units, the American units in China, were built basically by the Chinese. They bought the technology in 2007 or 10, if I remember well. So this was basically built by the Chinese. The Americans have constructed 2 units in the States. The first is now just being commissioned. And one more remark for the SMRs. Yes, these are a good hope for the industry. We hope that they will be able to have a series production. However, this has been the promise of the last 3-4 decades. This has not been established by now. I hope at least that in the next 1 or 2 decades we will have such a series produced SMR. And yeah, this could help with even further increasing public acceptance of nuclear, because this is a new innovative product. However, experience with constructing them, with operating them, is really basically lacking. So we will see in the next 1 or 2 decades how these vendors, these countries, will grow up to build these and to deliver these SMR projects.
Thank you so much. I think this is the best answers for today's occasion. Thank you so much for being here, and you shared your experiences and knowledge with us. And thank you everyone to attending to this event. See you in the next occasion. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.